Alright, hello everybody. So I thought I'd make a short video just to show you how to use UDIMs and to talk a little bit more about what UDIMs are exactly. So when you select your model and you UV unwrap, I've always told you to use the 0 to 1 space, right? 0 to 1. But as you can see here, for my little pirate ship environment, I actually split all of it into separate areas here on the UV sheet. So I actually have the floor in the middle one, the back wall with the windows in here, and I have this wall in the first one. Now this wall is just a duplicate of this one, superimposed directly on top. So these are UDIMs. So essentially a UDIM is an enhancement to the UV mapping and texturing workflow that makes UV map generation easier and assigning textures simpler. At its core, UDIM is simply an automatic UV offset system that assigns an image onto a specific UV tile. So here we have 1, 2, and 3 tiles, which allows you to use multiple lower resolution texture maps for neighboring surfaces. Because the alternative would have been to use 1, 2, 3, and 4, since if we wanted to use a 2048 map for this, and we wanted to enhance it, we would have had to use a 4096. So 4096 isn't two of these tiles. 4096 is 4096 up and 4096 to the side, which means you are technically using 4 2048 tiles. Because if it was just these two, it'd be 2048 high by 4096 wide. So this is the advantage of using UDIMs. So now you can just use the exact tiles that you require. Now, the second advantage to this is that you can actually bring this directly into a tool like Substance Painter and actually see exactly what you're working on. You can also import it to Photoshop, and that's how we're going to start here. So now that I have all of these selected, I'm going to go to Image and UV Snapshot. In here, we're going to browse where we want to save it. So we're going to go to Desktop, Pirate Ship, and I'm going to create a new folder just for you guys. Whatever, test. And I'm going to open it up. So we're going to call it something. So let's say JSON test and click save. So I'm going to make sure here, sorry, that it's at 2048 by 2048. And that's going to be 2048 for each one of these UDIMs. Now, U is the equivalent to X and V is the equivalent to Y, right? So an X and Y diagram here. So if you want 3 U's, that's going to be 1, 2, and 3 in this direction. Now, something to take note of, you never want to go into the negative. So you never want to go down or to the left. It will not work. Always go to the right or up. So you can add up there or down here. So now we're going to click apply. So 3 wide by 1 up. We're going to go into our folder. So desktop, pirate ship, test, and we can see that all 3 of them have been imported. So I'm going to drag these in Photoshop and check them out. So by default, we're not going to see much here. So I'm going to add a quick layer and just add gray so we can actually see. All right, so this one is for the windows. This one is for the floor. And this one over here is for the wall with my columns. So if we go in here, you can see that I have my main column part here. Actually, I cut it right here for a very specific reason. So I can actually have the top part of the column one color and then the bottom base of the columns a separate color. And I'm just using any color at this point. I'm also going to go here and I can technically use orange again for this column, which is going to be the far column. And the reason why they're not superimposed is that I can actually add different details to the back columns and the front columns. So they don't use the same one. But when it comes to the mask, I can technically mask them the same, which originally I had not done. So it's just going to technically save me a step here. So we're going to create a blue one for this one. And let's go for, let's say, a darker blue here. Now, very important when you're doing this, you want to remove the wireframe before saving, or else it's going to create some artifacts in your color IDs. So we're going to save as PNG, and we're going to call it test color ID, and save it. And now we're ready for Substance. So this is the final look here. So obviously I've already done this, but I'll show you from scratch real quick. So we're going to go for a new one. And I'm currently working in Unreal Engine, so I made sure to use the template for Unreal Engine. The first step is to upload the file here, the FBX or OBJ. So we're going to go to my ship here, and I'm going to select the room. Click open. And I'm also going to add my texture IDs directly in there. So if we're going to test, I'm going to use this one here. And so we're ready. Click OK. I'll save the changes for this one. And there we go. So we have the room in here. Now, here's the thing that's really neat about Substance Painter. So Substance Painter automatically updated my layers for me in here, the different textures. So if I turn them on and off, we can see these are the walls, these are the floor, and this is the back wall. Just based on the fact that I cut them all by UDIM. Now, something I forgot to mention is when you import this, make sure you click Create a Texture Set per UDIM Tile. If you do not click this, it will not work. So now if we go into the project folder here, we're going to see that I actually have the test color ID. I always like to work with folders. So I'm going to create a folder, and we're going to call this column. And inside of the column, I'm going to right click and add a mask with color selection. Inside the color selection, so make sure you don't select the mask or the layer. You want to make sure you select the color selection. And inside ID mask, click it and select the test color ID map you created. Now we're going to call this the column, and so now I can pick the color and pick orange. So now whatever I place in here is actually going to be applied only to the columns. So I'm going to use my alien exoskeleton here since it's the first one I have, and we can see that it's automatically placed by color ID, and so I have the full texture, color, spec, metalness, all of that, color, height, rough, metal, and normal map directly in here. So one of the questions I had before is how do you change the scale? So right now if I find that it's too big, I can actually adjust the scale right here. So the higher the number is, the smaller it's going to appear in here. All right. So there you go. So we have the columns. We have this. I can continue to create things for this. Right now I'm working in 1001, which were the sidewalls. 1001 represents the first UDIM here on the map. So this is 1001, 1002, and 1003. So if we go back in here, we can see that it affects each one. So now if I want to change, I can click this. And now we're going to be in whichever one this one was, the floor. So I can create another floor, and I'm going to call it floor. Now I didn't create a color ID map for this one, and I didn't create a color ID map for the other one. But one thing that's really nice that they updated in 2018 is that you can actually hold down Option and Control and right click. And now you can go back to whichever UDIM or layer that you have. So see, as you can see, I'm changing it just by Control, Option, clicking, or Alt Control on your keyboard and right click. And you see that I'm actually cycling through these just by doing this, which is a shortcut. And again, it's really good to learn your shortcuts. You can get much faster this way. So the last step would be the same thing as you would do normally, where you're going to go to Export Textures, make sure that each UDIM is selected. It's going to create one texture map for each. I'm not going to export at this point. I'm going to go back into my scene here. And I'm going to turn off my default Lambert. And you can see that what I did is I actually created a Lambert for each one. So this one is using Lambert 2. This one is using Lambert 3 and Lambert 4. And this one again, Lambert 2. And the way I did this is I went into my UV editor and I went to UV shell, selected all of these, and then in here, right click, and assigned a new material. And so that's how I assigned a material to everything that was in UDIM 1003 versus every material that was in UDIM 1002. So again, I just selected them, right click in the scene, and assign a new material. And once I had this, all I had to do was just go into the Lambert and connect the color and transparency if I had them. And I can continue to actually assign all of the different materials that our Substance Painter exported for me. But since I'm actually finishing this directly in Unreal, I just want to get a quick glance with the color of what it's going to look like. And since you're curious, this is my space, sorry, not my space, but my pirate ship environment that I'm currently building. And you can see this is my block-in, and my final environment. I don't have it open right now, but I'll gladly show you guys when I get there. So I hope this helped. This was a short tutorial on UDIMs, and thank you very much.